Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, 2022 will be the year of Nintendo, just like every year on this podcast. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I'm joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including GoldenEye coming to modern consoles. We don't know, plural. Then on Thursday, we are running down the list of Nintendo's 2022 releases. But in the meantime, Mark, how's it going?
It's going so good. So happy to be back recording an episode of NCS with you, Patrick.
Yes.
I know for our listeners, it was a seamless holiday.
Tiny seam.
Yeah.
One tiny little seam.
Seamless holiday. But for you and I, we have not seen each other for probably a little more than 2 weeks, which is very unusual because usually we see each other
twice a week.
At least. And so just so happy to be back.
Yeah, and it's great to be back. I feel, look, when we started recording this episode, I was like, do I know how to do this? Do we still know how to do this? Turns out everything's going great.
Oh, yeah. We're settling in just like we're pulling on a comfortable pair of underwear.
Yeah, that's right. Mark, perhaps too much disclosure at the moment. I'm currently wearing a very comfortable pair of underwear that I think is falling apart. Like, I think
it's right on the edge.
Yeah,
of like,
I think it's
comfortable
its last
because is it comfortable because like it's on its last thread, so it's basically like wearing nothing at all?
No, because I need a look. I will never take it that far. I was going to say because I need a little something, like I need some structure to my underwear. And I guess I did say that. So it's not just that I was going to say it, but I did say it. Look, Mark, speaking of things that may need a little more structure than is actually there, Sonic Forces, my copy of Sonic Forces, would you like to borrow it? You can get on the list. Here's the thing. Get on the list by emailing us Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. Both Sonic Forces and Untitled Goose Game in a Sonic Forces box are back at my home right now. I'm not crazy about the idea of going into a post office for the next couple weeks, so I'm not going to send it out we're going to take a little break. But that doesn't mean that I'm not still collecting names and addresses. So still email them into us. Give us a mailing address where we can send you my copy of Sonic Forces for the Nintendo Switch. There may be a copy of Untitled Goose Game in there. Who knows? You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. It's the perfect borrowing program.
Here's something else.
Something else
is you can do. We're opening up a whole new world here.
Whoa.
Because Spotify is now allowing people to leave reviews for podcasts.
Yeah.
And we would love...
Some would say about time. Some would say...
not us, certainly.
No,
but
not
some
us, certainly. Some would say this.
We would love if you would leave us... If you listen on Spotify, actually, even if you don't listen on Spotify, but you want to download the app and leave us a review, we're happy with that too.
Or if you listen to music on Spotify. One thing that I do know about Spotify and podcast reviews is that you need to have listened to at least one episode. But when you go to the episode page, you can click on things as though you have already listened to them. Say like, I listened to this one. And then you can review. So I don't know that it's gaming the system necessarily.
No, because if you are hearing this message, you have listened to at least one episode of this show,
or at least a couple minutes.
Yeah,
of
that's
one
right.
Of these
you
episodes,
might be in the process of turning this off in disgust.
Right. Go ahead and leave a 5-star review on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts, and we appreciate it when you do that.
Yeah, thank you to 11BM064. for leaving us a review on Apple, and OmniJake472 for leaving us a review on Spotify, and at Mora Bros on Twitter for shouting out the Sega Genesis episodes.
Yeah, we appreciate all of that stuff that you guys do for us. It's so cool to see people interacting with it, and it helps us come up in those algorithms so that people can actually find the show and listen to the thing that you've been listening to. Mark, we got an email from Patty D. Patty D writes, "Hey guys, great podcast. I enjoy listening to you. To and from work. I had a question. I was wondering if you have ever traded a system or a game and then picked it up again at some later time. I am guilty of this several times over. I couldn't tell you how many times I bought, traded, then bought again." Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS systems, and games. Anyway, keep up the good work. Thanks, Patty D. Mark, do you do much trading in of games like at a GameStop or anything?
No, I for several generations now at this point have been buying my games digitally.
Right.
And so don't do a lot of trading in. The last generation I did do a lot of trading in was the like PlayStation 3 / Xbox 360 / Wii, because I was like at one point or another through that generation I had all of those systems and
now you don't have any of them?
No, I don't have any of them. And so that's the thing is I feel like in general, oh sorry, I should complete that thought. So in the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Wii era, I was going to GameStop a lot and like trading things in and stuff like that. Buying lots of Nintendo DSs. I bought so many different versions of Nintendo DS. But as I feel like in general, I treat systems and generations like how I eat food, where it's like one aspect of it at a time. Like
you mean on a given plate?
On a given plate. That's right.
You're not like these. This is the chicken decade for me.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And so I basically like consume that generation and then almost like set it aside. Like I don't keep old consoles really. I don't have like my PlayStation 3. There was a time where I guess the one instance I have done this is, you know, like I didn't have my Nintendo Entertainment System from when I was a kid, and then, you know, maybe in the early 2000s I bought another one just so I could like have one again, but I don't have that one anymore. You know what I mean? Like I guess I'm not much of a collector really.
Yeah. I am a little bit more of a collector. But there's a lot of like older stuff that I just don't have anymore. Like I don't have access to an NES anymore, and I know we had a couple different ones growing up, and I don't really know what happened to them.
But have you in a generation been like, do you know what? I'm getting rid of my Nintendo 3DS, and then a few months or years later being like, oh, I'm going to get a 3DS again.
Oh, no. I mean, it's for me, it's like it's at the end of a generation that I'm like trading in. Like I remember putting together, I think my original Super Nintendo. No, honestly, my memories around this are all like mixed up. Because I was gonna say that I traded in like my Super NES and a bunch of Super NES games for like a Nintendo 64 or even a Virtual Boy. It's possible. But I'm pretty sure I had a Super NES in like high school and got rid of that later and then bought a new one, you know, like 10 years ago or whatever, which is currently at my brother's house. So like, I don't know. I feel like my console history is like too deep now for me to even have like an accurate record of anything.
Also, that's true. As you're saying that, I'm like, well, I didn't start owning consoles myself until like again, that like Wii, PlayStation 3 generation, other than like Game Boys and stuff. Otherwise, it was just like a family system that my parents bought. And I'm fairly confident that like the Super Nintendo that we had, the Nintendo 64, probably the GameCube and the Wii are all at my parents' house still.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
For like grandkids to play with.
Yeah. But I mean, none of which is to like discount the value of trading in stuff at GameStop. I have done that for sure. But it's never stuff that I feel like I'm going to miss. Yeah, I just if there's anything that I have like even the remotest like sentimental attachment to, I'm either going to keep it or like give it to someone that is like a member of my family or someone like that feels like, not that I'm ever going to collect on it, like I'm never going to knock on my brother's door and be like, hey, give that stuff back. But you know, I feel like I could.
Right, that's right. You can lord it over him.
That's right. I can always be like, you know, someday I'm going to collect those back. So thank you for the question, Patty D. I guess the collective answer for both of us is not really recently. I guess one thing that I do think about a lot is I think about what happened to my GameCube. I don't remember. I probably traded it in for maybe a Wii or I don't know. Yeah, probably that was it. That I was like, I don't need this because the Wii
backwards compatible.
Yeah, exactly. But also then what happened to the 4 sets of DK bongos that I had for it?
Oh my gosh, that is a great mystery.
Yeah,
that is yeah. I wonder.
There are 4 DK bongos somewhere, probably in Wisconsin, that used to belong to me. So like, go look for them, guys. Let me know if you find them. Mark, we also got an email from Xander, a couple emails from Xander over our break. And there was one thing that he mentioned here that I think you and I should discuss. He writes, "Hello, Nintendo Cartridge Society. I need a little help. I recently started to play The Legend of Zelda Spirit Tracks on an emulator and am considering buying a DS system since I found one at a local flea market and play it there instead of on the emulator. But I also found copies of Link's Crossbow Training, Twilight Princess, the Wii version, Metroid Prime, and Metroid Other M at the same flea market." And then he wants advice on which of those he should pick up.
Oof.
So we need to discuss this, but I feel like it starts off on a little bit of a sour foot for us, as we're not, Mark especially, not the biggest Spirit Tracks fan.
Yeah, I hate Spirit Tracks.
Actively loathes it.
But that being said, and kind of a nice dovetail with Patty D's question, I think you should buy the DS.
Yes.
Because I wish that I had a Nintendo DS.
Yeah.
And I wish that I had like certain Nintendo DS games. And I have a 3DS, so I guess like this is attainable in theory.
But it also plays Game Boy Advance games, which is the clutch part of it, where I'm like, yeah, if you're even thinking about like, oh, I could use a Nintendo DS, absolutely go get it.
Yeah,
and if it's at a flea market and it's like a reasonable price.
Yeah, I say go for it.
What do you think about these other things? Link's Crossbow Training, Twilight Princess, Metroid Prime, Metroid Other M.
If you've never played Twilight Princess, it's definitely worth playing, but I feel like there are other avenues for you to play it. As I'm saying that, it's like the Wii U.
Yeah,
the Wii U is the other avenue for you to play that.
And the Wii U is a superior version, but if you don't have a Wii U, first of all, understandable. And second of all, yeah, I don't know. Like if you haven't played it, like that's a good place to play it.
So my vote, I think, is still get the Nintendo DS, play Spirit Tracks. Tell me what you think, Xander. Tell me if you think that, like, my experience that I had with it when it launched, right? Maybe there was other stuff going on in my life that soured my opinion on it. I would be interested to hear what you think. So my vote is for the Nintendo DS for selfish reasons, admittedly. But what are you gonna do?
But also, I think that's just the good advice. You want to know something that like kind of tripped for me here was Link's Crossbow Training. I've never actually played this game. Have you?
Oh, I have not like completed it.
Yeah.
But I have played Link's Crossbow Training, yes.
Do you think at this flea market they have the like Wii Zapper, or is it just, and without the Wii Zapper, is it even worth it?
I don't really think I mean, does it really change the experience that much? I don't know. But I do think it's worth playing with the Wii Zapper.
Right.
The way that it was meant to be played. Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't Patrick, I think someday for this show we will figure out a way to play Link's Crossbow Training, the 5th best-selling Legend of Zelda game in the United States.
The United States, that's right. Maybe 6th now. It's possible that it got bumped off that top 5. Possible. We don't know.
Possible.
We don't have the numbers in front
of
us.
I don't think it's worth actively pursuing, personally.
One of the other emails that Xander sent us last week was saying that he felt that Metroid Other M was an extremely underrated Metroid game. So I'm guessing that after he sent us that email, he went ahead and bought Other M. And we did talk about Other M for a series of like a sort of book club style play along series way back in the day. So you can check those out on what did we title those? Like NCS minis, NCS. Who knows? You don't have to look it up.
Classic editions.
Classic edition.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think that's right.
But we've talked through all of those, and then Metroid Prime, great game. Are we ever going to get a modern version of it on Switch?
That's the rumor, right? Is that there's a remake coming soon that is being worked on in addition to Metroid Prime 4. So
So yeah, thank you, Xander, for sending in your question. I'm sorry to answer it with just a bunch of other questions. We don't know. All right, Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. And what a week. It's been 3 weeks, really, of games that we've been playing. Mark, I'm going to go first because I finished The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD on the Nintendo Switch, playing with motion controls the whole way through, which, look, I just think is the way to play the game. I know that they map some of those controls to sticks and whatever, but man, especially like the last fights in there, so satisfying from like a sword play angle, and I just really fun. I enjoyed this game a lot. The ending of it felt a little shaggy, a little long. Like there was a point where I was like, okay, I am now going to get like the last piece of the thing and then into the final dungeon. And the last piece of the thing is actually like 3 things that you need to do. And so like there was the end kept sort of delaying itself. But by the time I got to it, I was very satisfied with what Girahim's ultimate fate was. I was really happy with there's a Groose redemption arc at the end of this game where you're like, whoa, Groose, way to go, buddy. You used to be the bully and now I love you. So yeah, I really loved the end of this game.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to get there. Over the break, I was traveling, and so I brought my Switch with me, but I'm with you. I do not enjoy playing Skyward Sword with the non-motion controls, with like the stick controls. And so I've just been waiting until I can play with motion controls again. I'm curious so I just beat the like sand ship.
Yeah.
How many hours do you think I have left? Roughly.
Maybe 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe like another like third to go or something.
Yeah,
like that.
probably.
Got it.
I mean, I also like, not that I got everything, because I by no means did I get everything, but I reached the point in a Zelda game, which I love. I just think is and most open world ish games sort of do this, but like when you get to the point where you're like, oh, okay, I only have like a little bit more progress to go on this thing, and then I can get something new, and you start to make all of your own, like you have this tiny little objective list in your head where you're like, oh, I can just finish this and like get all these things, and I got really into that at the end of Skyward Sword, and was just having a really fun time upgrading stuff and like picking up the little like pieces of heart and stuff that I had missed.
Yeah, one of the things that really surprised me about my experience with Skyward Sword so far is how much I love the world of Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
And all like so many of the NPCs. There's so much personality in this game.
Yeah, it's all over it. And like the fact that one of the collectibles, the gratitude crystals, is about like just interacting with the characters and like doing dumb little things for them, sometimes ruining their lives, sometimes you ruin their lives, and you still get gratitude from someone will always give you those gratitude crystals, but yeah, like that's fun that it sort of like commodifies you building relationships with the characters. That's very fun too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited to finish that game someday, finally, soon.
Can I share the thing about Girahim that's like a little bit of a spoiler at the end?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you don't want to be spoiled for the end of Skyward Sword, or the very near the end of it, skip ahead just a little bit. But so Girahim is working to like summon this Demon King, and when he does this, when he succeeds in it, he becomes the Demon King's sword. So like he is the fee to the Demon King.
That is cool.
Which like tracks so much better than him being your rival. Him being Fee's rival is awesome. And I was like, this is so good and I love it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And then other games I've been playing over the break. I am playing Paper Mario 64, or Paper Mario on the Nintendo 64. And I'm playing it using my Nintendo 64 controller. Which I assume that you also have been doing a little bit of.
I have not playing. Yeah, I have not been playing it with the Nintendo 64 controller. I have been playing it purely with like the Switch controls.
So playing it. This is the first time I'm playing it with a Nintendo 64 controller because I originally played it on the Wii using that like weirdo classic controller.
Oh,
So I am now having a more authentic experience of the game, albeit not true to my original experience of the game.
I've also been playing Paper Mario. I just finished the chapter with Lady Boo.
Oh yes, and
Tubba Blubba.
Tubba Blubba, yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly where I am.
Oh,
too.
okay, yeah. It has been a very long time since I've played this original Paper Mario, and it is reminding me how it is kind of a perfect game.
Yeah.
I think it is. The writing is really funny and clever. The battle system is like with the like actions that you do plus the badges that you manage that give you different like abilities, and you have badge points, and when you earn like 100 star points or whatever they're called, that's when you like level up, and you have to choose between health, these flower points where how you can use abilities, or badges that you can equip. It's just so much fun. I love this game so much.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it never ceases to amaze me how small the numbers are in the game. That like even now, when we've both been playing for maybe like 8-ish hours, something like that. Mario will jump on an enemy and still deal 2 damage, like 2 points of damage, and I've got like 30 hit points. Like all the numbers are so low, which makes every action feel meaningful.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can't really waste a turn, or you'll be like really put on like a back foot. Like you've got to really be strategic and use the right moves on the right guys at the right time.
And I loved Paper Mario: The Origami King. I thought it was a really great game. Had a really good time with it. But going back to this original Paper Mario, it makes me realize I do miss when they had a little more freedom with the NPCs.
Yeah.
And so like there are like different ages of Toads and different ages of Koopas, and they're like
Goombario.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not like a character that I really like using because he doesn't have like an interesting moveset or anything. But like just walking around with him following you, and he's got his like big chompy face, and he's like got a hat, and he's just kind of like waddling behind you. It's so cute.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that I want them to go like back to that style, but playing this game just reminds me like how good this game is. I'm really loving it.
I also spent a little bit of time playing Mole Mania for the Game Boy on my 3DS through the Virtual Console library. Mole Mania is a Nintendo published game. Miyamoto worked on it. And it's sort of a like overhead puzzle game where you control this little mole, and you can burrow underground to see like to get like under the level and like pop up different places, and it's just like a very like pushing blocks around, avoiding enemies, throwing cabbages into holes, that sort of thing. And it's one of those Nintendo games that I have always known is out there. I was sort of reminded of when we were making our list of games that would definitely be coming to the Game Boy library, which never came to pass. And so I was like, yeah, I should put some time into actually playing this game. And it turns out it's a very good, very competent, fun Game Boy puzzle game.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. I don't think I knew that it existed, but now I'm all in on that little mole guy for Smash.
Oh, yeah. A little mole guy. His name is like Murphy the Mole or something like that. Let's get him in Smash because they're never going to add characters to that roster ever again.
So, I have some exciting / embarrassing news about Animal Crossing New Horizons.
Oh, Mark, I feared that we were going to get to a point like this, but please tell me what your news is.
Okay, my news
yes.
is that KK Slider has come to Cabot Cove.
Yes.
And so I'm unlocking a lot of the DLC stuff.
Yeah.
I have also started the Happy Home Paradise. A little bit of egg on my face about Happy Home Paradise.
Yeah.
Because I think, basically what happened was I finally unlocked KK Slider comes to my island.
Right.
And I'm like, great.
Now's the time.
Now, at any moment now, Tom Nook is going to be like, hey, I got somebody for you to talk to.
Right.
Any second that's going to happen does not happen. And so I'm like, weird. What have I done? Like, what did I not do? I'm like scouring the internet, trying to be like, what trigger did I miss?
Ooh, can I guess?
Yeah.
Did you, even though you are subscribed to Nintendo Switch Online plus expansion pack, not actually download Happy Home Paradise?
That's exactly what happened. Because you know what I thought?
Yeah.
Was that when I just thought it was included with the 2.0 update.
Yeah, no.
And so all I had to do was go to the eShop, download Happy Home Paradise. And so I'm pretty sure that the original like thing that I read that said that all you have to do to trigger it is, like have a house, have resident services.
That was probably it.
And download. They missed the crucial part. Download it from the eShop. For dum-dums like me, you got to like spell it out. So I think if I had actually done that, all of this work that I did to get KK on my island wouldn't have been worth it. This is definitely after the fact feeling this way where it's like, okay, I'm actually kind of glad I didn't know that because I've enjoyed putting
sure.
I've enjoyed putting a little bit of work into the island. I have two citizens or two village islanders out of like 6 that I like. The other ones they're starting to leave now and I'm like, all right, see you later. So I have Seymour the cat.
Yeah.
And then I recently got Boris, who is like a pig.
Perfect.
And he's like a blue hog with tusks, and I love him.
He sounds great.
I love him a lot. And so those 2 are like my keepers.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I'm a little bit like, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
But I did start Happy Home Paradise. I only did the beginner house with
Eloise's reading room.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But excited for another reason to start going back and like actually playing Animal Crossing New Horizons again to play. But I do admit,
I love this.
I'm a little like burned out now on Animal Crossing because I've been playing every day to try to like check those boxes, hoping at any moment I'm gonna be able to play Happy Home Paradise.
Just gotta download it.
I just gotta download it. Do not let me be like an example of what not to do.
I'm glad that you finally got access to it. I would like to see some of your home creations at some point. It's something that I would also like to get back to. Sarah and I both took like a little bit of a break from it over the holiday, but I believe she's in the other room playing it right now. So we're getting right back into it. All right, Mark, those are the games that we've been playing the last couple weeks. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So this is a little bit.
We're going
back a little bit.
Back just a little bit.
But a couple more Sega Genesis games came to Nintendo Switch Online on December 17th. Mm-hmm. Altered Beast, Toe Jam and Earl, Dynamite Heady, Sword of Vermilion, and Thunder Force 2.
Which I gotta say, after getting Paper Mario and the announcement of Banjo-Kazooie for sometime in January, I wasn't expecting to get like a drop of Genesis games.
I don't think we've ever got 5 games at a time on any of the Nintendo Switch Online systems.
That's a good point.
Post-launch. Usually I feel like the most we got was 3.
Yeah, I wonder if we ever got more from the original NES, because that didn't launch with that many games.
No, like Super Mario Brothers 2 USA wasn't on there.
Yeah.
The Donkey Kong Country 2 and 3 wasn't on there.
Yeah. But yeah, in any event, 5 games. And look, Altered Beast is a steaming pile of bad game, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it. Toe Jam and Earl, I gotta say, I don't understand. I turned it on and played it for maybe 10 minutes, and I got one of the characters, whichever is the red one. I don't know, Toe Jam? I don't know. To walk around on an overhead map. But I couldn't tell if that was the game or if that's just the map before I go into the levels, I don't get Toe Jam and Earl.
I always confused. I've never played Toe Jam and Earl. I always confused it with Earthworm Jim.
Yeah, this is a common thing for me as well. But I mentioned that to some friends the other day, and I was made fun of. So I don't.
They must have owned Genesises.
They must have. But so these are all games that I will check out in some capacity at some point.
I wonder if we played, because I feel like both really enjoyed our exploration of Sega Genesis over the holidays, and I wonder if we played Alter Beast in the same way that we played Golden Axe, if it would be a similar.
I don't think so. It's Altered Beast is a tough one to swallow with any sort of distance from when it came out. The concept is so cool that you're like dudes that turn into like werewolves and werebears, and you're just like fighting your way through a graveyard. Cool concept, but the game itself is awful.
I don't know anything about like Thunder Force 2, Sword of Vermilion.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sword of Vermilion sounds like something that would possibly be up my alley.
Thunder Force 2 is probably fun too. And Dynamite Heady, you throw your head at things and your head explodes.
Oh.
So I mean, I'm just saying, I want to check out some of these games.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we're jumping a little ahead now to Monday, January 10th, where we think Picross S7 is releasing in the US. I believe it's already out in Japan.
Okay.
That happened in December. But I agree with you. Patrick, you put this list of new releases together, and you were saying that you can't confirm this. I was looking at it as well and can't confirm it either, but I do see people referencing a January 10th release date in the US. So I think we're probably safe.
Yeah, it's not currently on the Switch eShop, so it's possible that it won't come out and will come out at another time. I remember this being an issue with a previous Picross S entry, so it could just be that again.
Also, it used to happen all the time with the eShop. It feels like that the release dates have gotten a little more sticky, but in the early days of this show, we would say release dates for something, and
then we'd be saying it again next week because it would just show up again and again. Also wanted to point out that there's a game coming out on Thursday, January 6th called Epic Dumpster Bear 2, He Who Bears Wins. So,
there's something for everybody.
All right, let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or a group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. Therefore, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. It's been a couple weeks since Mark and I have been together, so we got to do a little bit of like a pop culture catch-up. So we're going to be talking about... I just broad strokes here. Spider-Man probably, Hawkeye probably, Book of Boba Fett.
There's something else I want to talk to you about. We actually saw this movie together, but it was right before we took our winter break.
Oh yes,
and that was West Side Story.
West Side Story,
which I loved so much. I have not been able to get it out of my head.
I'm listening to it all the time. Yeah.
I really loved West Side Story.
West Side Story was great. I know it's sort of bombed at the box office, but man, it was just so good. Like, I just really, really liked it.
Yeah, me too. I cannot wait for the opportunity to watch it again, honestly. Like, there was something about it that really, like, sparked for me.
Yeah. Well, and it also, like, for as much of, no real Spider-Man spoilers just at this moment, but there is like a thing that happens in Spider-Man that refers back to people's nostalgia and sort of like recontextualizes some stuff and some actors in a way that is like more relevant for now. And West Side Story does that. Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. And I feel like the changes. So I know we're not just talking about West Side Story.
I know we're not just talking about West Side Story.
The changes that they made to it, and like the way that they contextualized the whole story, I just thought it was really smart. I just thought it was, the performances for the most part are really great.
Yeah.
I just thought it was really, really good. So I have Oh, did you see Matrix?
Yes.
The
Resurrections.
Yeah, Resurrections.
Yes, I did.
So I have not seen that yet.
Mark!
I know, but that one's at least on HBO Max.
Right, you can check it out.
I'll be able to check it out. Okay, I also haven't seen Spider-Man, but you saw Spider-Man. How was Spider-Man?
Spider-Man was really good. Should we spoil Spider-Man at all or not?
I don't know.
You didn't see it.
I haven't seen it, but like I exist in the world, and so the spoilers are just out there at this point. Like IGN and stuff, they're just openly talking about it because it's been 2 weeks or whatever.
That's true.
So they feel like statute of limitations.
Okay, so well, if you feel very strongly, I'm not going to like hard spoil it because I'm not going to talk about like the ending. No, maybe I will. You know how to skip 433. It's not that long of a segment. Super cool to see all the Spider-Mans together, and Andrew Garfield like owns the movie. I mostly despise the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I saw one of them in the theater with you, Mark.
That's right.
And yeah, just like I just hate those movies. I think they're bad. But he's a very charming dude. I really liked him in Tick, Tick, Boom this year. And so, like, the sort of like calls on the internet for like make Amazing Spider-Man 3. I'm like, that'll be terrible, but yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I for whatever reason, and this is one of those like it's like cilantro. It just for whatever reason,
yes.
Andrew Garfield is just not like my favorite actor. But I have heard also that he is like very charming in this.
Did you see Tick, Tick, Boom?
No, I haven't.
So I think Tick, Tick, Boom helps unlock it because it is a musical and because he has a certain like theatricality, a certain like bigness to his performances, even in like a sort of mumblecore sort of way. And like he does like the modern musical right.
Oh,
like
interesting.
He sells it in a way where you're like, this is a little embarrassing, but I'm moved by it, which is all a musical is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, that for me, and then seeing him in Spider-Man, I was like, that's fun. I get it.
That's
I love
fun.
him now.
Okay, we've got to move on. Talk about Hawkeye.
Okay, back to West Side Story.
I mean, the Spider-Man connection is there because Mark Webb, who directed the Amazing Spider-Man movies, is going to direct the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs for Disney, who is starring the Rachel, whatever her name is, who plays Maria.
There we go.
In
You did
West
it.
Side Story.
Who's related to Kevin Bacon by
Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. We are now going to spoil the end of Hawkeye. Hawkeye, I think, follows, for me, in the tradition of the MCU Disney Plus series where I liked everything and then the finale was kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I feel like most of the MCU stuff recently, the third acts have not really come together for me.
Right.
This one, for whatever reason, I felt least bummed out about.
Yes.
Because I still felt like it was charming, and I didn't feel like the joy of the show to me was not the plot of the show.
Right.
And I felt like the characters were strong throughout. Like, I liked the characters throughout the entire thing.
Yelena, baby.
Yeah.
I like her so much. Florence Pugh is so good as that character. I never want her to leave.
I think it's really interesting how much they play her for laughs, like as a joke machine.
Yeah.
In Hawkeye.
Yeah.
And
I just in Black Widow too.
That's true. But I feel like in Black Widow, I don't know. I thought it was interesting to see her in this. I'm interested to see how they use her going forward.
It is funny because like when you've got Kate and Clint on screen, Kate is the comic relief to Clint's straight man. But when it's Kate and Yelena, then Kate is the straight man.
Yeah.
Because Yelena's just that much funnier, and what are you going to do?
But yeah, I really liked Kate. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. I thought the whole thing was just light and fun.
Yeah.
I liked Rogers the musical, and I liked that was kind of like the mid-credit sting. I thought that was fun.
I think that song, and I know it's supposed to be, I think the song Save the City, awful.
yeah.
Okay,
but you're right.
Good,
I think it's supposed to be.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Book of Boba Fett?
Book of Boba Fett. Let's do it. Fine so far. We're one episode in. I am interested in seeing more. I feel like the show, I just like it looking a little more cinematic, which Robert Rodriguez definitely brings in his direction that like Dave Filoni or like, whoever isn't actually bringing to it. But I don't know enough about what the show is yet. And of course, that's the end of the 4:33. So we'll have to finish our catch up, I guess, off mic. Mark, I don't know how this works. Are we done talking about it forever? We were accompanied today by the Randolph College Chamber Orchestra with soloist William Parrish Jr., conducted by Randall Spear. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
So speaking of Nintendo Switch Online, Nintendo 64.
Yep.
Maybe.
Really
stretching the maybe here.
Yeah.
Because GoldenEye 007, the Nintendo 64 classic, is it coming to modern consoles? And specifically, is it coming to Xbox?
Probably it's coming to Xbox. In some form.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Xbox achievement site's True Achievements spotted an achievement list for GoldenEye 007. There is no similarly leaked list of trophies to suggest that this is coming to PlayStation.
But
I don't know. I know that Microsoft owns Rare,
mm-hmm.
and Rare developed GoldenEye 007
when they were owned by Nintendo.
Exactly.
Right.
And the last time that we saw any GoldenEye 007 thing was during the Wii era, when like Activision remade it, when they had the James Bond license. But even that was less remake and more of like a weird sequel with the same name. Yeah,
with
that's
like
very
Daniel
true.
Craig's license or likeness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were rumors at some point last year about a GoldenEye remake, which also then quietly went away. So who knows? We'll get more information about this probably soon. If
probably
an achievement list is like popping somewhere.
Yeah. So I 100% believe that it's coming to Xbox One.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a good get. It'd be a fun get. It wouldn't surprise me if it is just Xbox exclusive.
Yeah, me too.
Right? Because yes, it was published by Nintendo, but that was like and developed under like when Rare was, you were saying, Patrick, a Nintendo first party developer. But no, they weren't. They were like Nintendo never.
No,
owned
Nintendo
them.
did own them, right?
And they sold them to Microsoft? Or I thought my vague memory of the story at this
here
point.
We go. We don't have any
moment,
facts. We have no idea what we're talking about.
This moment, my vague memory of the story is that Nintendo owned part of Rare, but didn't own the entire thing. The original owners of Rare were going to sell, and they offered it to Nintendo. Nintendo said no, and they sold to Microsoft. So I don't know that Rare was ever like a first party, like in the same situation that Retro was. But it's been so long since I've thought about that acquisition story that I don't know if I'm getting any of those facts right. But basically, the long and short of it in relation to GoldenEye 007 is, I think, we've seen games that Nintendo helped publish more recently, like Fatal Frame, the Black Maiden one, or whatever, that was originally a Wii U exclusive but was recently released on Switch and other consoles. It wouldn't surprise me if this turns out to be another thing where Nintendo's just kind of let this go.
According to Wikipedia, during its early years, Rare was backed by an unlimited budget from Nintendo, primarily concentrated on Nintendo Entertainment System, NES games. During this time, the studio created blah, 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 blah. Rare became a prominent second-party developer for Nintendo, which came to own a large minority stake in the company. So I guess that is what it is, that they never actually owned them, but they did own a part of them.
Yeah.
And an unlimited budget?
Living the dream.
That can't be right.
Yeah, that sounds like Nintendo.
I'm going to check the source on that one.
So what do you think as far as 007 goes?
I think it's not coming to the Switch. I think it'll be on Xbox as a sort of novelty. I don't really think anyone's going to revisit GoldenEye 007 and be like, oh, this is a game that I actually want to spend time with. I know a lot of control for a lot of games has been standardized over the last 2.5 decades, but it's especially true for first-person shooters, and to try to revisit something like that now is almost impossible.
Weird sale alert.
Weird sale.
Atlas is putting a ton of their games on sale for deep discounts, but the only twist is that it's 3DS games.
Just 3DS games.
The sale ends this Wednesday, January 5th, so if this is of interest to you, don't delay.
Yeah, get on it.
Here's some games and their sale price. Etrian Odyssey 2 Untold, the Fafnir Knight is $7.99. Etrian Odyssey 4 Legends of the Titan is $7.99. Patrick, do you want to take a couple?
Sure. Etrian Odyssey Nexus is $9.99. Etrian Odyssey Untold, the Millennium Girl, Millennium Girl is $7.99. Etrian Odyssey 5 Beyond the Myth is $8.99. We don't have to actually run down all of them, I don't think.
Okay, well,
but the next three are of interest.
Okay, so Persona Q is $7.99. Persona Q2 is $9.99. Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology is $9.99. I actually just picked this one up yesterday
for $9.99.
For $9.99. Yep. Didn't actually know it was on sale. The timing is fortuitous. Retronauts released an episode maybe a couple of weeks ago, but I listened to it during the break about Radiant Historia, and their discussion of it, a game that was not on my radar at all before, got me really interested in this 3DS version because it's a remake, and there's a mode for it where you can basically just experience the story. Because
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. The story is supposed to be really interesting. The battle system is, from their discussion of it, sounds really interesting but very complex. But the story I'm looking forward to experiencing, and it being on sale was a huge bonus. So yeah, I picked up Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology.
And then the Persona Q games are like a first-person dungeon crawler thing using characters from the Persona games.
Exactly. So it's actually developed by the Etrian Odyssey team. And so it's a very similar thing where it's a first-person dungeon crawler where you are using the bottom screen to draw out the map.
Gotta say,
to map the dungeon.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but apparently they're working on a Switch version. I'm curious to know how that'll work without the dual screens.
Yeah. And then also all of the Shin Megami Tensei games that are on the 3DS are on sale for under $10 each. That includes the original version of Shin Megami Tensei 4 for $8. And then Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse for $9. So there's a lot. If you've ever been interested in Atlas games outside of the Persona games, and you got a 3DS, you've got some cracks at cheap versions of these games.
Nintendo released a video last week celebrating the best-selling indie games on Switch of 2021, and here they are in the order in which Nintendo presented them: Cyber Shadow,
Unpacking,
Tetris Effect Connected,
Stick Fight the game,
Curse of the Dead Gods,
Ender Lilies,
Doki Doki Literature Club Plus,
Spelunky 2,
Road 96,
Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero,
Littlewood,
Islanders,
Slime Rancher Portable Edition,
Eastward,
and Axiom Verge 2. Now,
the first thing that jumps out at me from looking at this list is the sheer number of them that were featured in indie showcases. Nintendo does a good job of surfacing indie games that then go on to sell well on their on the Switch. It's remarkable, the power of that. Like, the only games on here that I think weren't featured in those showcases are like Stick Fight the game, and maybe Curse of the Dead Gods, and I think everything else, maybe Littlewood. I don't actually know what Littlewood is, but everything else has been in an Indie World showcase.
I also think it's really interesting how it's a constant reminder to me how narrow my focus on video games are, because there's a lot of games on here that I'm not familiar with at all, like Road 96, like you said, Littlewood, Islanders. I've heard of Slime Rancher, but I'm actually not really familiar with what it is, and I think that's really cool. I also think it's interesting that Axiom Verge 2 released last year, and I don't remember people really talking about it past when it released.
Yeah, it had a little moment, but not really. I mean, it's hard to live up to the original, right? It happens pretty infrequently. Even Spelunky 2, I feel like, has a smaller footprint than the original Spelunky but that's among and in both cases, those are both games that were sort of part of the initial onslaught of whoa, this indie game is actually good, from 7 years ago.
Also, it's really hard to tell from my,
right.
social media feeds what the general video game discourse is.
Because you just follow me, right?
Right, yeah. Mine is very curated. And so I don't really know what I'm talking about.
I do think it's cool that Cyber Shadow is on here. Loved Cyber Shadow. Loved Tetris Effect Connected. What else? I tolerated Eastward for a little bit, and then I stopped playing it. And it is still a game that I intend to get back to at some point, but haven't yet.
We may need to enforce a moratorium on the show on discussing global supply chain issues.
Okay, all right.
And chip shortages until there's something like more specific, more meaningful to talk about regarding it.
Because the headline is just, it's going to be a long time before this gets sorted out.
Everything
if ever.
Yeah. But just last week, Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa was talking about how that was going, how the chip shortage, supply chain issues, all that kind of stuff was going to affect Switch consoles in 2022. No surprise, not well.
Not affecting it well. Negative effects.
Furukawa says, quote, "As I feared, we won't be able to make the amount of units we wanted to." Unknown if that is referring to the fact that in November, Nintendo revised their fiscal year 2022 target from 25.5 million Switch down to 24 million. And so it's unclear if the context is saying, yep, 24 million is what it is, or if the context is, we're not going to hit 24 million.
I assume that he was actually talking about the projections for next year.
Got it.
As the revision down for this financial year, even though it ends, April 1st, that they actually made that revision at the beginning of November. So that's sort of, we've been living in the world of, they know they're going to sell or make 1.5 million fewer Switches this year. We've been in that world for the last 2 months.
I feel like all of this has had people talking about like when we will see a successor to the Switch.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a while.
I think it's 2023 is my guess.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think it's sometime in 2023. I think.
And is that like a quote unquote Pro, or is that Switch 2? And what's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know what they'll call it. I think
they won't call it Pro.
I think it'll basically be like a true next generation Switch.
Sure.
In whatever like naming form that takes. But I kind of, because of the supply chain issues and because of the shortages, I think it makes sense for there to be a successor maybe like sooner than we would maybe think, because
interesting.
I think it just makes sense to let's get it out there in limited quantities and have the two kind of like crossover and like have the Switch still out there while the Switch 2 or Switch Pro or whatever it's called is like also rolling out.
But you're thinking, and tell me if you are not thinking this, but do you think that would be like a totally forwards and backwards compatible? You can play Switch 2 games on the Switch 1, you can play Switch 1 games on the Switch 2?
I think you can play Switch 1 games on the Switch 2. I do not think you'd be able to play. I don't think it'd be cross-generation that way, where it's like, oh, we're releasing Splatoon 4 for both systems. I think it's going to be, we're releasing Splatoon 4 for your Switch 2, but any games that you own on the Switch are also playable. Because I guess basically what I'm saying is that I think if Sony were going to do it over again, I don't think they would stop selling PlayStation 4s like cold turkey, because they just can't make enough PlayStation 5s.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's, and the Switch is using such, I know that manufacturing capacity is not infinite, but the Switch is using older components for a lot of its stuff. And so that seem to be more easily sourced than like the components for a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series X.
Or even the original plans for what the Switch OLED became.
Right. And so I guess it just makes sense to me that it's like, okay, keep making, before the Switch completely dies, right? Before you lose all momentum on the Switch, have the next Switch out there, but you still continue to make the original Switch. I don't know.
Which actually is something that we saw in, the 80s and 90s, and the switch over to both the Super NES. The NES saw support for a long time after the Super NES came out, and Nintendo 64 for that matter. We saw still a lot of support for the Super NES after Nintendo 64 came out. The thing that, like, just knowing that whatever console generation comes next is going to be more supply constrained than the current makes me wonder why you would even bother developing for exclusively that new platform. Why would you do that?
Yeah, that's true.
Especially when there's 100 million Switches in the wild. Like, I think it'll be a long, if Nintendo does come out with a new Switch in 2023, I think we don't see a new Switch exclusive game until like 2025. Like, it feels so far away at this point.
Well, and you're right. I mean, even at launch, the last couple of systems, maybe not with the Wii U, but we saw, like from the GameCube to Wii era, we saw a Zelda game that was available on both.
And then that was it. Then
right,
Nintendo was done supporting the old platform after that. Yeah,
that's true. But they have had some sort of cross-generational games for a while. I guess the way I'm thinking about it is that what you run the risk of, I think, is the the last few years of the Wii were dire, right?
Yeah.
And if that same sort of thing happened with the Switch, where the Switch just lost all of its momentum, and then you release a new Switch, but it has like a trickle of availability,
software,
then I think you're kind of in a difficult spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, look, Nintendo goes through these like dark periods, right? The end of the Wii's life cycle, all of the Wii U's life cycle, even like the sort of like end of the GameCube, right? Where like, and the end of the Nintendo 64, they're all like shorter periods, and they always bounce back, and there's always a Pokemon game coming out on the handheld or whatever to get them through it. Now that here's the thing, Pokemon will always save them, right? So even if they try to put out this like the new Pokemon's not going to jump to the new platform until it's a proven thing, right? We saw that with like Sun and Moon and Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun, that those games came out during the Switch life cycle, and it was later that the Pokemon company got on board and was like, all right, fine, we'll start putting games on Switch. My point is, there are dark times in the Nintendo timeline. We may be coming into another one of those. I don't think this year, but I think there could be a time in the years to come, shortly, that won't be as fruitful as they have been for a while.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. It feels like that whatever Nintendo has planned for 2022, which we'll talk a little bit more about on Thursday, is that they feel confident in what they have as far as like software goes. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the year holds.
And again, we will not talk about supply chain issues
That's right.
unless it becomes relevant again in some novel way. But also, we'll probably talk about it next week.
And finally, did you know that there is an ongoing Zelda Twilight Princess manga that's been going since the beginning of 2016?
No, Mark, I did not know
I
this.
didn't know that either, but it turns out that it's coming to an end.
Oh, no.
And with its final arc being the one that started publishing in December in Japan, creator Akira Himekawa broke the news on Twitter just before the new year. And apparently these books are usually collected and localized to North America within the year, which, does that mean that this manga is available? Like, we could be reading this manga.
Yeah, we could be reading
right
the first 9 volumes of it right now. You can go on Amazon. They're just there.
That's amazing. I can't believe that I didn't know that. Is it just recounting like the plot of Twilight Princess
I don't know.
as conveyed in the game?
I mean, it probably could be at that many volumes. There's a lot of story and incident tucked into, and characters, right? Like interesting characters that would be fun to explore through like another medium. Yeah, it's wild to think that like even if it goes off of just like the main story there, that it's like exploring the story and world of one specific Zelda game, and it just makes me so like happy and grateful that each entry in this series is so like unique and presents its own world and its own identity, with just all these other storytelling opportunities. It's just cool. It just makes me like
cool. It makes
happy
me wanna
about Zelda.
It makes me want to read this.
Yeah, we should pick up the first volume.
We should.
All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Please remember to rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you like the episode, you can share it on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you share stuff. It doesn't matter to us as long as you're sharing it with the people you tolerate. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
I'm Brian Husky. I'm bald.
And I'm Charlie Sanders, and I'm also bald. And we host Bald Talk on the Campfire Media Network.
Bald Talk is the podcast where two bald comedians talk to anyone bald about being bald.
But this show isn't just for baldies, Brian. Harrows will love it too.
Bald Talk gets into vulnerability, vanity, insecurity, and self-acceptance, reminding us that we all have our respective bald spots. Not that bald spots are a bad thing.
No way. I mean, my entire head is one big bald spot.
It is one huge, beautiful bald spot, Charlie.
Get Bald Talk on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts.
I mean, I have like a little bit of hair, but not like you. Like, you're really bald.
I'm truly bald.
Great. I mean, it's
I'm
great.
balder than you.
You are balder than me.
Only on Bald Talk. Campfire.